Hi, everyone. How are you? Welcome to episode 6 of Honest Conversations. It's really a pleasure to be here today. As we wait for everyone to log in, I just hope you've had a fantastic week and you've really, got through this week in a safe way. What we're going to be talking about today is relationship dynamics. So last week we talked about dating dynamics, and this week we're going to be talking about relationship dynamics. And what that means is going past the dating phase, once you get into a relationship and you're actually trying to achieve a healthy and stable relationship. So that's our target for today. We're going to be stepping into a lot of interesting information, a lot of stuff backed by science as usual. And I'm really looking forward to sharing a lot of this valuable data with you and some of these thoughts that might really shed light on the challenges that you are currently facing in your current relationship or that you've faced in past relationships as you're trying to figure out, how do I move forward with figuring out who the right partner is for me, and what are the challenges that I keep facing over and over and over again that are really plaguing me. And sometimes people tell you, well, yeah, you tend to attract the same type of, loops or experiences for yourself. And this is what's driving you into these situations. You attract the same type of man, or you attract the same type of woman, or you get yourself in the same type of scenarios. So if you're having challenges in your relationship, or if it's not a challenging relationship, if it's a relationship that is decent, but there are certain things that you could fix, or you'd like to fix out these kinks, or you've gone through a divorce and that divorce is being challenging for you both and it's affecting your children and so forth. This is a very good session to kind of highlight what's going on at a deeper level, and for us to understand our brain, to understand how we behave and why we make the choices we do when it comes to our partners, or the partners we tend to choose or we tend to be most attracted to, and how to deal with all of that. So I'm really excited to have an opportunity to share this valuable data with you, as Alarad, and kind of have an open conversation. I'd like to start by asking you a question, okay? If you were to look at all the partners that you've chosen in your life so far, the ones that you actually had more than just a date or two with, you just decide to spend some time with, would you say that there's a pattern to the type of partners you tend to invite into your life, or you tend to attract to yourself, as they say? So I'd like to invite you to kind of take a look at that and see if there is a pattern, because if you see that there is a pattern, then there's something that is left to be learned. Now, while you guys do that, I'm going to just plug into Instagram the link that you can use to join the show. And in this case, you'll be able to come on live and, share your thoughts with me. And you can use a fake profile if you want. Okay, it's updated on Instagram now. So we're done there. You can use an incognito name, but just trying to make it a decent one. And we can have a conversation about that. So I really invite you to be brave, open, and honest. As always, when it comes to honest conversations, the objective that we have is to share information in a safe space, to really support each other. So this is a community where we're supporting each other. We're helping each other to be honest about our thoughts and ideas, and to face the challenges that we have in life without running away from them, but rather understanding them so we can be free of the lies and the misconstrued conclusions that we end up allowing ourselves to, if you want a certain aspect, digest and believe in, that are not really true. So I really invite you to go ahead and do that, okay? I'm going to take a look really quickly at Instagram. Hi, guys, as usual. It's great to see you. It's great to see everybody on Facebook, both my page and account, and on YouTube. I love you guys. So happy to have you connected. Be patient with me as we get into this topic, okay? So are there patterns when it comes to the type of people? I see a lot of funny comments here on Instagram. The kind of types of people that you tend to, invite into your life. And if so, if there are these patterns, then are these people showing up in an abusive format? What kind of people do you attract to your life? What kind of people do you end up falling in love with or feeling obsessed with, or chemically in love with at least, and dating, and how does that affect your behavior? So that's what we're going to get into. Just putting everything on silent. So here we go. Let's start with this. Let's understand the type of partner we tend to choose. So there are two types of choices when it comes to the type of partner that we tend to choose. So we tend to choose the type of partner that fulfills our childhood gaps. So if you look at your childhood, okay, and there's no such thing as a safe childhood. So anybody who thinks that they had great parenting, I'm going to tell you that your parents can be great people, but not necessarily great parents. And the reason why that's possible is because the first time a person has a child, they don't know how to deal with them. Unless you have phenomenal grandparents who are there supporting the mother and father, the new mother and father, to take care of the children. In most cases, there's a learning curve, and that learning curve tends to happen at least with the first child. That's why if you're the first child, you tend to get a little bit of the headache, right? Like I'm the first child, and I can tell you my parents love me so much, but it wasn't a very happy place in certain perspectives because they had to learn at my expense. And, that does cause some challenges when it comes to your personality. So the first thing that we look for is we try to think our adult version of ourselves, like Freud says, is just a bunch of children acting in an adult way, trying to bring back into our life the types of feelings that we wish we had experienced when we were children, and we want to experience them now at an adult level. So what does that mean? We're really unconsciously trying to create or recreate our childhood, but in an adult environment. And the impact of that is that, well, let me prove it to you in the simplest way. Have you guys noticed how when you date someone at the very beginning and you like them, yeah? Not dating and you're like, ugh. But no, you're dating and you're like, I'm really into this girl or this guy. You guys start calling each other these cute names like baby and kitten and pussycat and I don't know what, and habibi or farfura, etc. I like doing this all the time. Trust me. أنا بحب غنش كتير. But ultimately, what are we really trying to do? So we start to treat and admire our partner like a baby, and we start to behave like a baby, which is kind of weird, right? Because what we're really trying to do in our head, we're recreating the image in our head of what we desire and wish our parent would be like, okay? And so there, in our head, in each person's head, and I'm going to share this on a drawing right now. Instagram, I know you can't see this, but I'll try to verbalize it as much as possible. So if you're looking at, let me just share that. Bam, here we go. You guys should be able to see the screen in 3, 2, 1. There you go. So what we're really trying to do is we have an image, okay, of the ideal, I'm drawing the ideal parent, which looks more like a mummy in a sarcophagus. But the ideal parent, this is the perfect parent that we see. And where's this parent? It's inside of our head, okay? It's inside of our head. So what we're really understanding here is that this ideal parent is someone that we are searching for. So let me give you an example. Take a pen and paper right now, if you don't mind, just something to write on. And I'm going to give you just 30 seconds to think about if you had an ideal parent, if there was a perfect parent for you, whether it's a mother or father, doesn't matter, just a parent, okay? Well, how would they treat you? How would your ideal parent treat you? So what are the 5 most important things, at least 3 if you can't come up with 5, but the 5 most important things that you wish and desire that your parent would have treated you or would treat you with if you had the ideal parent, just for fun. It's just a game, okay? So if you've had a tough childhood, please don't get stressed out by that, because we're not focusing on whether you have tough parents or not. What we're focusing on is what is the effect or impact of that when it comes to the choices of partners you're looking for, and how do you expect these partners to behave with you? So really quickly, again, not to use up a lot of time, spend 30 seconds and think, what are the top 5 ideal behaviors that I wish my parent did with me? Like the ideal parent. Would it be nurturing me, hugging me, غنجني, loving me, feeding me, buying gifts for me, listening to me, supporting me? What are the most important things for you that you wish an ideal parent would do for you? Because when you're able to identify these, you're going to start to recognize the type of people that you're attracting to yourself or that you think match, okay, the perspective of, or the assumption that you think they match this type of parent. So I'll give you just 30 seconds. And in the meantime, while you guys take that time to think, I'm going to do something fun just for the sake of it. And I'm going to put some music. Let me go to my music videos, put some music for you guys, give you a couple of seconds to think through this. I think you should be able to hear this by now. Just 30 seconds. Okay. So by now you should have taken about 30 seconds to think about what that ideal parent is. And if you've put 5 attributes that you associate with an ideal parent, now I want you to think, I want to invite you to think about the people you've attracted to yourself in your life, okay? Have you been attracting people who gave you the promise of feeling those feelings? So if you're looking for someone who would give you support, listening, okay, having fun with, checking our friends together, playing games, all that kind of stuff. So if you are, for example, Zach, if you don't mind me saying, if you're searching for a woman as a partner who is supportive of you, listens to you, is fun to go out with, so it's like a tomboy, you high five each other. Sorry about that. That might be a bit loud on the microphone. And, you guys can check your friends with and you can enjoy life with, then you're going to feel pretty good with this woman, right? Now, here's the thing where things tend to go wrong, okay? You need to understand, well, you don't need to do anything, but what I mean is it's important to understand that we are always in search of wholeness, completeness. So when we try to search for this ideal parent, we're thinking reason number 1, we want to be treated based on the ideal image in our mind. Reason number 2 is opposites attract, okay? Why do opposites attract? Because there are gaps in our character, okay? Because of the way that we were brought up by our parents. And these gaps in our character, which we'll talk about in a while, tend to then affect us as people. And they affect the way that we perceive the world around us. And we search for this filling up of or complementing or completing of from the ideal parent. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about these gaps so that we have a better understanding of how this works and what the impact on this is, okay? So the first thing that we need to understand is when we're being brought up by our parents are going to do several things. Our parents want us to fit in society. Why do they want us to fit in society? Because those are the rules of the culture around us. And they want us to have the highest level of success in surviving. And so to have the highest level of success in surviving, our parents are trying to make us appealing to the world. So if you think about it, appealing to the world at that time, okay? So what happens is the following. Parents are trying to repress parts of their kids' character so they can fit better into society. And that part that they repress, that they hide, they tell, like I saw a lady in ABC a long time ago, about 2 years ago before COVID, and her daughter was like pulling her ear, and the girl had slightly bigger ears than the size of her face. And so her parents walked up to her and said, her mom basically said, "Aib, kam marra qultu lik tkhabbi dinayki?" This is wrong. How many times did I tell you to hide your ears? And this poor girl then felt very ashamed. You could feel the guilt, the flush of blood into her face. She's like 6 years old. She brought her hair down and hid her ear. And subconsciously, you think, okay, this mother is evil. But no, she's not. She's just uneducated about parenting. And so what she thought she's doing is what's best for her daughter, which is teaching her daughter at a young age to hide what she believes are issues with her that will make it hard for her to fit in the society that she, as a mother, perceives to be true. So here the situation means that she is creating in that child what we call the lost self, because this is a self, part of us, that we hide away that we are not comfortable with, okay, then school reinforces that, and our society, our friends at school, and the teachers at school, and the promotion and marketing, advertising that we see in the world, that reinforces that. And what happens is that lost self becomes a part of you that causes you pain all the time, because you're not at peace with that version of yourself, and you're always feeling guilty for releasing that part of who you are. The next part of this is when you have other personality traits that you tend to repress, and then you replace them with an adjusted personality of you, okay? The kind of personality that, for example, people will accept, but it's not really you. And we call this the false self, okay? The false version of who you are, or the masks that we use to show society something that we have accepted to be true now as adults, but we don't ultimately believe we are aligned with. The child in us is not okay with. And then finally, there's your innate personality that you've also learned to hide from each other. And your innate personality is what was natural to you, and your parents told you this is wrong. And then in that case, or society told you this is wrong, and then we call this own self, the self that we have lost, or that we decided to let go of, okay, this own self. And this is very dangerous, because we are growing up in a world as adults, and the society expects us to be logical. The society expects us to be reasonable. The society expects us to be complete and whole and functional. But in fact, we are starting our lives already fragmented in pieces, because so much of who we are has been chipped away by the world, telling us that this is wrong, or this is right, or this doesn't fit, or you must be like this, or you must be like that. So why is it that when we go through our teens, we face so many challenges? It's because we're actually in a situation where we're in a revolution against the world, where it's trying to eat up our rights, and we're saying, stand back. Now, as a teen, if you overdo it, you're going to have some problems. And if you underdo it, you're going to have some problems, because you'll turn to a submissive or a, well, that's where, in some aspects, a narcissist is born. A narcissist is born much earlier, for me, at least on a neuroscientific level. I believe it happens at the level of our paleolimbic brain, when they are allowed to be dominant children, and they don't have limitations in their behavior. So that's also the opposite spectrum, when a parent is overly loose and just lets the child do whatever they want, screams, shouts. You guys are funny. Okay, screams, shouts. Sorry, I'm seeing some really funny comments. Screams, shouts all the time. The parent just doesn't hold them back, and then the child starts. Have you seen these children? Like, one time I got on a plane, and there was this 4-year-old child, and she started crying on a 3-hour trip, nonstop. And I'm not talking about, I'm talking about, crazy crying. And nobody could shut her up until her parents would grab her and lift her up. And the moment they put her down, she cried. The moment they picked her up, she instantly stopped. It's not like she was feeling better. No. It was just like, boop, she stopped. And so this is an abusive child. And it's not a child that's abusive because she's an abusive individual. It's because she learned that her parents didn't know how to put the right type of conditions for her to grow and to understand that her behavior is actually the wrong type of behavior. Yes, you're totally right, Perla. I'm not going into the full depth of it, but I'm just explaining some parts of the paleolimbic brain. Give us more information if you want. Yes, when they have narcissistic parents, we definitely do pick that up from them as programs or apps, and it's passed on from a narcissistic to a narcissistic, or an abusive to an abusive, or an alcoholic to an alcoholic, or people who are have addiction challenges can pass those addiction behaviors to their parents. But again, I'm not a psychologist. However, we're very lucky that we have Perla Ma'alouf with us, who is a psychoanalyst, if I remember correctly. Is that correct? And she really knows her stuff. So she's going to help us out with any information that we need until she has to go in a bit. I believe, yes, we will have 10 minutes of her. All right. So another thing I want to talk to you about is, and parents who castrate their children emotionally and psychologically. Yes. So we were talking a little bit about that, but that's a very tough word to use. I don't like to use it on the show. But that's what we're saying. When they just cut off when they say this behavior is unacceptable or not allowed, or going into deeper things. But I want to focus here, most importantly, on what we can do about the situations that we're in, okay? Not just what are the conditions that we grew up in, okay? So let's see. Good evening. Is loving others unconditionally something healthy? It absolutely is when you do it with conscious awareness and understanding. If you're doing it under the context or pretext that you're loving others unconditionally because you're a victim or you feel victimized, then not good. Okay. So I'm just taking a look. Leia's saying narcissists start from the womb, the first few weeks, I think. Well, then we're talking about genetics, are we not? So, or epigenetics. So we'll talk about that another time. No, don't worry about it. Okay, so moving on. When people grow up, okay, with a parent and they have certain personality traits, then we can tend to fall in love with someone who also has similar traits. So that's one of the second reasons why we choose partners. And in this kind of situation, it's very important to recognize that if we start to notice these traits early on in the partner, or they promise us these traits, we fall in love with them, and then people say to them, why do I date someone and then he changed or she changed after we were in a relationship with each other? Well, I want to highlight something for you that's very, very simple. And this is a theory of mine. So, and again, I'm not talking to you as a coach. This is not a coaching session. This is just John with his experience sharing with you thoughts and ideas. And I'm always open to correction, adjustment, or further development because I don't know everything. When we talk about behavior, have you noticed that when you meet someone that you really like and you're in the childhood mode, right? You are excited and they're excited. And when you're together, it's just, you're chemically just, boom, you're chemically enjoying this experience and everything's going great. And what happens is you are conscious, you're in the moment. So your decisions are, to an extent, conscious decisions. But if you spend a lot of time with that partner, what you notice is over time, we start to get used to each other. And then we start to feel less and less need to be consciously in the moment. And also at the same point in time, we start to grow a little bit apart. So we fall in love and whatsoever, and society puts some pressure on us. And this is where I say to a lot of Lebanese, at least youth or people, please, for God's sake, I mean, really, for God's sake, stop getting married because of pressure from the society or because you feel you must, because the world tells you must, or okay? Because when you get married in this way, it's even worse than not getting married. You're both lying to each other. You're both putting up an act, okay, of what you pretend to be offering the other. If those traits that you're pretending to show to the other, you're displaying, okay, to the other, sort of like marketing, okay, promising something that is not true, right? Or that you can't, it's true maybe for the moment consciously, but you can't do on an unconscious level because it's not part of your character, right? And so what's happening is once you guys get married, suddenly both partners feel no need to maintain the charade because khalas, it's done. The document is signed and everything's okay. She's mine, he's mine, right? The sense of ownership, like I own him and he owns me, almost like we bought each other, okay? And in this situation, what happens is we start to let go of the desire or the need or the worry or concern of having to maintain appearances. And in this situation, other traits come up to the surface, traits that we didn't know were there in our partner and we didn't want to show our partner because hype, right? And so what happens is, in this situation, well, there are many, many other reasons. And Perla brings up one that's very interesting here. And not only because of society, but because they think they know each other fully from the first year. That's true. And I think that's also because a lot of people are afraid to be genuinely themselves. Like we said, there's a lot of repressed behaviors or sides of our character that we haven't come back, we haven't spent time getting in touch with again and being okay with. So it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay to have a big nose or a bald head or I don't know, a small chest or elongated face or whatever it is that you have, because nobody comes as a perfect package. So in retrospect, if you want to go get a breast augmentation, or you want to do a nose surgery, whether you're male or female, or you want to do an implant for your beard or an implant for your hair, make sure you're doing it because you desire it, not because you feel lacking without it. Okay, so there are two very different perspectives of this. And so, not that this is really what we're focusing on right here, but in retrospect, when we get into a relationship and we have these lacks, okay, and we hide them because we're afraid that the other partner will see these things in us and might not accept us or marry us, then we're going to put ourselves into some serious trouble. And what happens after that? So then we get to a stage where you start to grow apart. And let me just take a look at some of the notes. Love only comes when you love yourself fully. You don't have to work to keep a relationship. Okay. I do believe there is work to keep a relationship, but I don't consider it, maybe work would be the right word to explain it. Maybe we can call it effort. Okay. So I'm not sure if we can say there's work, because relationships, at least for me, and I'm loving the dialogue, would mean that we will have to put effort by trying to understand and recognize what it is that our partner truly desires and what they really believe their ideal parent would be for them. Okay, so let me get into this just a little bit, and I'm loving what you guys are saying, so we'll take it from there. But this is a really cool topic because everyone's really interacting, so I'm really enjoying this. Let's think about this for a second. You get into a relationship, whether you're in a marriage or not, and it's a long relationship for quite a while, and then what's going to happen is you're going to start to eventually drift apart. And these little rifts in your relationship are actually very dangerous, because it means that subconsciously you're probably starting to think about breaking up without even realizing that that's what you're doing. And so your lives start to take a divergent path. You go do your own thing, like they say in the American world, you go play golf and stuff like that, and she goes and does whatever she wants. And what's happening is there aren't things in common. You're not spending time doing things in common. You're spending time doing things separately. And that's going to weaken the glue of your relationship. And eventually it's going to dissolve the meaning or desire for these individuals to be together. Okay. So these create exit routes for you. And the more you start to feel that exit route is going to give you pleasure versus the pain that you have in this relationship with a person that you don't really know, and where you don't really like yourself with that person because of the clash that exists, then you're going to start to try to take those exits. And if you can't take the exit because society says aib or mabiswa or religion tells you this is a sin, then we're in a critical situation where you're going to act it out either on your partner, and men do that mostly through aggression, and you're probably going to go out and try to find your appeasement somewhere else and cheat on your partner. And you'll think it's okay, and you'll say to yourself, it's okay, but because she's already doing this to me or he's already doing this to me. But in fact, the problem or the challenge starts, I think, with us personally, because we made the decision to be in this relationship in the first place, and we need to understand ourselves better before we step into a relationship in today's world, which is a very complex world compared to the world that we were in before. I see some side conversations. I just want to keep in being engaged with all of you. So let me just see here. Actually, you have some efforts to put, but I get your point. Effort is a must, but not forcing things. So you're saying it must flow. Love is about sacrifices and effort. Relationship should help you become the best version of yourself. I don't really believe in that, to be honest. I think relationships can help you to be the best version of yourself, but they don't necessarily, or should. I think you should help yourself be the best version of yourself by having a relationship, at least for me, with God, who accepts you as you are. And that way you can start meeting the world from the perspective of love. Yes, it should add to your energy and not take from it. So this tells me that you're having some toxic experiences. And when things take away from your energy, then we have some things to discover about ourselves that we haven't yet learned on. Karen is asking me, question on a long distance relationship. Since the couple doesn't do a lot of experiences together, the most communicate remotely, does this affect the relationship dynamic? Absolutely. Okay, look, first of all, I'm going to tell you, I'm horrible long distance relationships, and I've always said it, and I will always say it. I'm just garbage at it. Okay, I cannot tell you how horrible I am, even though I would really love to. It's just very difficult to maintain. And so for me, at least, I think it depends on the character, and it depends how much time they spend together and what type of communication or what type of needs they want. I don't know if you guys have read this book. It's called The 5 Languages of Love. Has anyone read it? Diana, totally. I will not wait for a relationship to feel validated or happy about myself. Yeah, relationships are not meant to validate us. And if we believe that they are, then that's not a relationship. We're just searching for understanding of ourselves in a partner, which is impossible, okay? Because they cannot be our parent. So the fourth thing I want to share with you is taking care of our partner. So one of the things I've noticed a lot of times when, great May, I'm so glad that you read it. A lot of times when you meet a partner and you're dating that person, I've noticed this happen a lot where my dates or people that I was dating for a while, obviously, so I can't call them a partner, but I can say a strong relationship, would come up to me and say, but you should know how I feel. And I was like, why? Because you're a coach. Okay, what does that make me a mind reader? Why should I know what you think or what you're saying? Because you should understand me. If you love me, you should know, you should understand me. Same thing happens from a male to a female, right? If you love me, you should, I'm just changing the voice. If you love me, you should know me, you should understand my needs, you should be able to deliver my needs. What does this sound like? Who are we talking to on a subconscious level here? Are we talking to our partner? Or are we talking to our parents? Because when you're 2-3 years old and you're crying and you need to be fed, okay, then you go, Wah! There's no communication. And then your mom comes to you and says, oh, Habibi, it's 12 o'clock. She figures it out magically. It's almost like magic. And you're like, what a magical mama. How did she know I need to be fed? So in your mind, mama gets me, right? And so what we search for in partners is they need to get us like my mama and baba got me, right? But that is not a realistic experience, because as we become adults, God gives us the capacity to use our brain logically, to spend more time in our prefrontal cortex, and to actually communicate what we desire. Now, here's where things get messy, I think, many, many times, is we are afraid to communicate what it is that we desire for fear of being judged. Because we say to ourselves, oh my God, what if I told my partner that this is what I truly desire? What would he or she think about me? Okay? And I'm going to talk about an adult version of this for a few seconds. I'm going to talk about sex, because I think this is where things get really messy. All right? Especially in the Arab world, where sex is a massive taboo and people are like, right? So there's this idea, since you're brought up, that, making love is something that is the perfect pinnacle of a relationship. And I think that that's kind of silly, because making love, if I asked you right now to think, if you thought making love, what does it satisfy the most? The body? The emotions? The mind? The spirit? So what is it satisfying? If it's satisfying your emotions, that means the body is still left without what it truly needs. So please, for the sake of decent marriages to remain intact, understand that if a man or a woman wants to be with you sexually, not under the context of making love, okay, in a marriage, I'm going to keep it in marriage just to work for the rest, okay, then that really means that they are loving you in a different way. So it's not a disrespect. جوزي قال لي انه بده يعمل هيدا الشيء معي ما بيحترمني. I'm not just a body. يا خيي طولي بالك. The other way again for a man. So when a man says, my wife is lunatic, oh my God, she's watching so many porno movies, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing as a husband with a wife. This should just be this normal release of pressure. No, that's not what it's supposed to be. I'm not a sex therapist and I'm not a specialist in that, but common sense is we have a body, we have emotions, we have mind, we have social, and we have spirit, at least for me. So what I'm trying to say is that in the aspect of desires, a lot of times we're afraid to express these desires, whether they're emotional or sexual or mental or psychological or physical. Everyone's laughing, I love this. Or even gifts, because we say, oh my God, he's going to think I'm superficial if I ask him for a gift. Okay, if you're asking him for a gift every single day and you're only focusing your relationship with him on his gifts, and you need him to go to Aishti and buy you a $900 scarabine every day, there's a problem. No offense. It doesn't matter how much money you have, But that's just because your focus is in one area. So what I'm trying to say here in very simple terms, you don't have to accept this. I'm just sharing thoughts with you, okay? This is my perspective. Again, I'm repeating. You guys are on this channel and I'm sharing with you thoughts. So this is my perspective and I'm entitled to my perspective. But I think that I'm right because when I've shared this information with others, they've actually become happier because you're not going to get happiness out of a $900 or $700 shoe, even though most women are going to be, I disagree, John. The shoe does make a difference. But in reality, it's not about the shoe. It's about the quality, right? It's about what does the shoe mean? If you want the shoe because you desire it as an art piece, I'm all for it. Praise on, sister. But if you're desiring the shoe because you feel without the shoe and this dress, people won't recognize you for your value, then we need to go deeper and say, well, where is my value, right? Let's continue moving on a little bit. Keep sharing these comments. I'm loving this. So we can't ask our partners to know what we want without expressing this. Now, what are ways that we can express these thoughts? Okay, so let's say your partner comes home with a headache and they're not feeling really good, and they really feel like something sugary, okay, and or like a cake or something or chocolate. You know, I'm that kind of guy. And when I feel bad, I need to have sweets. All right, and then they expect you to just know that. You didn't care about me. You didn't think about my needs. Okay, what is it that you need? I asked you, what is it that you need? And this could be a male or female version, okay? And then they're like, well, things in lockdown are great. I'm having conversations with you. So bottom line is, what's happening is you're expecting your partner to know your desires because you want to feel loved. Don't take that anger out on your partner. Instead, get used to the habit of saying, what do I really want right now? And how can I communicate this to my partner? Okay, so in this situation, what I would recommend is the following. There's a really cool psychologist. His name is Richard Stewart, and he created an interesting method where he invited partners to sit down and write down, okay, the top 5 things that, or a big wish list, whatever. It could be 10 things that they desire that their partner would do for them on a regular basis. So let's say you're someone who loves to have your body massaged, okay? Whether it's your feet or your head or your neck or whatever it is, okay? Well, yes. And that situation, what's going to happen is, you know, you tell your partner, hi, you know, I want you to know that I really like getting a massage every now and then. And I would so much more prefer to have it from you than to go out, you know, to a massage parlor and receive it from a third party. So then your partner recognizes this and makes an effort. This is where the effort comes in, okay? Yes, I have 4 screens open. And he makes an effort to do a massage on a regular basis when he or she feels you most need it. Another thing, for example, if you wish that your partner is tidy, okay, or neat in the house, you know that this is something very important for her or for him, then you make an effort to keep things tidy. If you recognize that your partner likes to have a conversation over dinner, and you know that you come home, assuming you're actually going somewhere and coming back, with lockdown, we're home all the time, then you tell your partner, hey, so the other partner tries to put an effort and has a conversation. Even guys, if your wife wants to have a conversation during dinner, okay, and they're not superficial, trust me, women are not superficial, and stop labeling women as overly emotional. They have a lot higher emotional intelligence, but they're not necessarily overly emotional. They just express themselves sometimes in emotions, and I much prefer an emotional woman over an angry and violent woman, to be honest. So I would much prefer that she is functioning under the context of her nature versus acting like a man, which I find very scary, to be honest. So, and this is non-judgmental, by the way, so please, nobody get super sensitive and go, oh my God, you're so disrespected. All right? Now, the thing I'd like to say is, I'm just trying to make these things fun for everybody, all right? Let's just keep an open mind and be okay with uncomfortable communication. Let's think about how we can deal with each other non-judgmentally, well, at least one of the ways of many, and try to discover what are our desires from our partner. So one of the things I would say is sit down with your partner and say, okay, let's play a game. Let's light a list of all the things that we desire the perfect partner would do for me on a regular basis. So regular basis, and saying regular at least once a week. And then write that list and then exchange the lists and take the time to read them and then open up a discussion about them. You'll be surprised how much you'll be laughing at that. Let's not get into identifying as a man or identifying as a woman. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a woman who identifies as a woman and is acting out or lashing out with aggressive male behavior, or a man who identifies as a man is acting out with overly emotional feminine behavior, which does not meet the normal context of a man, okay, who is perceiving his reality as a man, not as a woman. So let's not get overly sensitive about that, if you don't mind. I'm going to tell you from now, I'm not a fan of these 50 labels of sexuality, like I'm an unidentified sexuality. And I'm not saying this because I'm disrespecting the human who is going through this experience, but I am saying that that is not normal. And if society is allowing that to happen right now, that doesn't mean society is right, okay? What is healthy for people is to know their identity. And people deal with challenges and lose their ability to love themselves when they don't know what their identity is. So for individuals who come around and say, today I'm feminine, tomorrow I'm masculine, after tomorrow I'm it. There's a problem there, and I have nothing but love and understanding for the individual going through that experience, but I have frustration with society for supporting it as a form of respect, and that is not a form of respect. And that is my decision to say what I believe based on my knowledge and understanding so far. And if you don't agree with it, I so respect that. I do. And that's okay. You can be angry at me. It doesn't matter. I still love you and respect you and appreciate you because it's your thought process. So moving on. The first thing that I could recommend is mirroring. And this is something I learned from NLP, and it's completely fine and fun. I also just saw a very important comment, I think. Do I do therapy sessions for couples? No, I don't, because I'm not a therapist. However, there's an amazing therapist here. There's actually two, or maybe three. I see Perla is an amazing therapist. You can talk to her. She's incredible. There's also Suzanne Abirizit, which is she's really, really good too. You can talk to her. I'm not sure if she's still on. If she is, you guys can contact the wonderful person, because I don't want to say your name out of respect, who asked for this. One way of listening, okay, to another partner is to mirror them. So what that means is you listen, you actually try to listen to the language that the other person is saying and what they really mean by their position, and then you repeat it back to them. So you make a habit of repeating what they're saying before you move on to your thought. Because when you do that, you're really letting them know that they're heard correctly, okay? And that they don't need to be apologized for something that's going on in their life, okay? And I think that's a form of love. Just the fact that I'm willing to listen to another person's ideas is a form of love. However, and here's the trick, okay? And let me just share something with you. I, when angry, am the worst person to argue with on planet Earth. When I'm angry, I am intolerable. When I'm angry, I should be slammed with a mikway, with an iron. The actual iron, you just take it and you just slam me with it, like, pah! And then you just send me to the wall like a cartoon. Why? Because when I was young, the version of me who grew up in an aggressive household, okay, my parents are amazing, but you know, when they're young, they had their challenges, has become hyper defensive. So when I get triggered in my flight and fight response, yeah, baye. And Kairuz, yani, it's over, okay? So I'm just trying to make this fun. So I recognize that I'm at my weakest when I'm angry, and I really don't like that. So I try to avoid it at most times. So when we talk about listening, because sometimes people come up to me and tell me, yeah, but I listened, to my partner and I was so polite. And I was like, okay, but what state were they in? And they're like, well, they were super angry. And I'm like, okay, so it was the wrong time to apply the technique. When your partner is very angry, you need to empathize with them. You need to allow them to express themselves until they're done with that experience, until the pot has gone psss, so they can transition from the reptilian brain back to the prefrontal cortex, and then they feel safe again, and then you have a decent conversation. But I really find it silly when partners walk up to another and they see that their partner's raging, and then they're like, why are you angry? I'm being polite with you. Why are you using loud and abusive language when I'm being so polite with you? You know what that does? That makes that person feel even less valued, and that makes that person judge themselves which makes them even more angry. So common sense, it don't work. So don't do it. All right. So the second step is to validate your partner. So when things are calm, you guys have a calm conversation. That's why my habit, which I've been criticized so many times for, is if I get really angry, I just say, I need to go right now, and I shut the phone. Okay. And I say it politely. I say, I'm not disrespecting you, but I'm closing the phone because I still don't have full control over my anger. And when I close the phone, okay, you can see my cheeks got flushed a bit because I feel vulnerable, but I'm okay speaking about this because I want to be honest with you. All right. So in this situation, what happens is that I close the phone to give myself 10 minutes to settle down so I can go back to a state where I'm being calm. Now, what is not a very mature communicator does? Oh my God, he shut the phone in my face. He disrespected me. How dare he? So now she's in a state of anger because obviously I'm dating a girl and we're stuck in a horrible situation. Or alternatively, she'll call me and she'll say, come on, how you close the phone in my face? Excuse me, did you just realize what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to protect you from the anger man. I'm trying to keep you in a position where you're not going to get lashed out by the worst side of me. And I'm trying to, give myself some time to think logically so that I can actually have a decent conversation with you that is emotionally supportive, loving, and validating. So when we say validating, we're saying, I'm capable of shutting my mouth, turning off my brain, focusing completely with the other person 100% and saying, all right, tell me your thoughts. I want to hear what you're really saying. And when that person says their point, rather than saying, yes, but, okay, please don't do that, guys. Because when you go, yes, but, what you're simply doing to the other person is saying, yes, everything you said, I listened to it because I must, but it's pointless because my opinion is the better. And so in this situation, that doesn't work. So what I'm recommending here is to say instead, okay, I get where you're coming from, and it doesn't sound crazy, and I can understand why you're perceiving what you're perceiving, or I honestly don't understand why you're saying what you're saying, but I really want to. So at least I'm going to say, to an extent, I can respect it, but I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I respect it, and I appreciate what you're experiencing and how you're experiencing it. Can I recommend an alternative or show you another perspective that might make sense? And when we feel safe, when we know that the other partner's intention is good, okay, then we can talk about anything in a comfortable situation, no matter how weird the conversation is. But when you don't feel safe, then you can't talk about anything because you're so concerned about defending yourself. And that comes from a part of our brain, or let's call it the brainstem, okay? The brainstem, or the primal part of our brain that really just understands, key behaviors. And I'm gonna talk to you about these key behaviors very quickly. But first, let me give you some examples of how to overcome this. I hope this is interesting for everybody. Allow me to drink some water. Some water to water my parched throat. All right, so here's what's going on. One of the concepts of a certain type of therapy is to put things in container transactions, which means that I give the speaker a chance to communicate what they need to communicate. And then instead of trying to argue with it, okay, I just empathize with it. I try to put myself in their shoes and I try to understand it. Another type of therapy, which is actually a very good technique, but I forgot, I think it was, I forgot the name of the therapist. It's called core scene therapy, which I don't know, Perla, if you know this, or Leia or someone on the team, just team, I don't know why I call you team, but team of people who understand behavior, just go ahead and share your thoughts with me. When we talk about core scene therapy, it was a really nice technique to create a catharsis where the person communicating the ideas can disconnect from the emotional impact of it on themselves. So in general, what we say is, okay, guys, we're going to go into a scene from a movie or a play, and we would like you to express your anger, okay, but as if you're acting. And the actor is going to support the other person to vent out their frustrations and their troubles, okay? But it's just a scenario. So what's happening actually is the person that you're angry with is now acting with you to help you release your anger, and has become now a collaborator in helping you to release your anger rather than the enemy itself. And both of you are disconnected from it. I don't know if it would be called drama therapy, but probably, yeah. I don't know the title. I just know that the technical name for it is core scene therapy. And but yes, we could call it drama therapy or movie therapy or whatever you would want. So when you love someone, it's really important to put their needs first and be willing to change yourself for the better. And this is where we do change in a relationship, and the relationship can help us change and grow. Because look, let's think about this. There are several relationships that you have in your life, at least from my perspective right now. Okay. The first is your relationship with your father, which is God, for me, at least. If you don't believe in God, that's totally cool. Eventually, it's your own journey, but I'm going to tell you honestly, you're probably going to end up believing in him in the end. Once you go around and around and around and around in circles, you're eventually going to find that when you're searching for the truth, that's where the truth is. But for those of you who don't believe, that's okay. So you can think of it in a different perspective, okay? And I totally respect that because it's your time and your journey. So we're talking like this because if I look back at my stuff like 5 years ago, this would not be the context of what I'm saying, but my life has changed. And so, thank God. So here's the idea. Let me try to put this in simple terms. I have a relationship with God, and I change because by having a relationship with God, I'm accepting myself as I am because God accepts me as I am, and He loves me as I am. And He loves me with all my imperfections, okay? And He's willing to see the best in me, see the saint in me, okay? And which means He's willing to see the saint in you, and He loves you as you are. God is a God of acceptance and love and mercy before judgment and rules and regulations. The rules and regulations are meant for us, not for Him. He doesn't need them, okay? The second relationship that you have in your life is with yourself, which is after you have a relationship with God and you find your inner peace and you find the core, the source of energy that you can always tap into, the source of love that you can always tap into. So you start to heal your own wounds. And this healing happens at a much deeper level than anything you can do. And with all respect to everyone who's doing therapy or coaching or whatever it is that you're doing, nothing heals you like an experience with God, a breakthrough with God. Nothing. Because I've experienced it myself, and all the people I've met who have experienced themselves can tell you nothing does that. This doesn't mean that therapy is not important. This doesn't mean that coaching is not important, mentoring is not important, and having social support is not important. This means they're very vital because they're there in addition to all of that. But you can lie to yourself all day long, and if you do, you will never be able to change, heal, or grow, according to me, at this point in my life. Maybe in the future, I'll change my mind, but right now, this is where I'm at. So respect to all, peace. Now, so the second thing I want to say is that you also have another relationship, which is with the world around you, your social relationship. Then you have a relationship with your partner, which is your husband or wife, and you also then have a relationship with your children, and then you have relationships with your pets. So pretty much, really, the idea is that every time you have relationships, you're growing. You're learning something about yourself. How many of you have had a dog or a cat or a mouse or whatever it is, and you learn patience and understanding and love? Why do people love dogs so much? Cats get a really bad reputation, but honestly, they are so loving. I just think people don't understand cats' language yet. We just have much more knowledge about dogs because dogs are easy, they love us back in a different way. But in fact, if you look at animals generally, you'll find that any animal you have, a bird, anything it is going to love you unconditionally. And when we say dogs are loyal, that's really nice, but I think every animal is loyal when you know how to treat it, okay? When you understand its language just as much as you understand yourself. Even you can be disloyal to yourself if you don't understand yourself. So, kind of food for thought. Now, to be a better partner, you don't have to change everything about yourself, but what you can do is change the types of actions and the ways that you communicate your love. So what I'm trying to say is, we're not telling you stop being a wild and energetic person. What we're saying is, when you express it to your partner, express it in a way that they can also relate to if you really want them to be your partner, okay? So let's take a look at this. You know, there's a universal love called agape, where it's like a brotherly love. And I think that a really good relationship is based on loving the other person as if they're your brother or sister, and then loving them as if they're your partner too at the same time, having that depth. And to get that depth, what it really means for me is that you won't be scared okay, to lose your current ego, okay? Because it's just the death of your current personality and the birth of a new version of you. So marriage, okay, is actually very interesting because I think that it is a new start for your life. It is the choice that you're making to let go of part of you and to discover a new version of you with your partner. And in that process, that can be very scary. And to some extent, I think people feel some regret afterwards because they feel lost, because they weren't ready and they weren't prepared and they weren't self-aware that this is what's going to happen. But over time, you'll recognize that you're getting so much more in the long term. Now, let me just take a look at some of these comments. There's so much action happening today. I love it. My dogs are so loyal. My dog taught me a lot about being a mother. Absolutely. My dog taught me a lot about being a father too, and my cats. I was so impatient at the beginning and I learned how to communicate to my dog. Yep, I'm following you after life. Okay. Kishray, I try to recall username. Okay, much love. Okay, no, you guys are supporting each other. That's wonderful. It's a kumbaya moment. So what I also want to talk about really quickly is how to understand people better. To understand each other better, first we need to understand our brain. So the brainstem controls your bodily functions like breathing and sleeping and stuff like that, okay? The reptilian brain and the paleolimbic brain. Whereas in the limbic system, it doesn't really understand if we want to bring them together. So a little bit of the limbic, paleolimbic, a little bit of the reptilian, which are our flight and fight responses. They don't understand time in a linear fashion. It doesn't understand the future and the past. Okay, when we say linear, so there's a future and a past, if you've done any timeline regression or timeline therapy or anything like that. Whereas the prefrontal cortex, okay, or the cerebral cortex can understand the concepts of future and past. But the limbic system is in the moment. It has to be in the moment in order to protect you from danger. So if your limbic system starts to focus on the past or the future, and you're going to get hit by a car and it goes, oh, well, yeah, but I was just kind of focused on what kind of ice cream we're going to have in an hour from now, you'll die. Yeah, that's my cat, and she's in heat, so she's driving me nuts. Lucy. Welcome February, and I decided this year, I don't know if you guys agree with this decision, I'm just sharing this with you. I decided that I was not gonna remove her ovaries. I just felt deep in my heart that that wasn't the right thing to do. I don't think it's fair for this beautiful creature to lose her right to have children. Or kittens, or to feel love or experience whatever was naturally designed for her just because I wanted to live in my house and not bug me for 3 weeks. So I decided to leave her as nature did because it's her right. And since she can't decide for herself and sign her own documents, I can't take her into that surgery. The problem with it is that she's driving me nuts. And I found her a boyfriend and I approve, and he's a good boy. But she's still not feeling very good around him. So right now she's driving me insane. Okay, so enough about Lucy. Lucy, you can sit down a little bit. Yes. So when you guys tell me that cats do not love, please just tell me, where is the cat that does not love? The black and white cat that I had, Yelena, was stolen by some tourists when I was traveling, and unfortunately has broken my heart. And I saw them on camera. So I just want to say to all those people out there who think that that pets are not family members, please don't do that. Do not steal someone else's pet. That's like stealing someone else's child, okay? I don't think you'd ever wish that on yourself, because we do build an amazing emotional bond with them, and they're incredible. So now, getting back to the things I'm saying. On a limbic system, in our old brain has these kinds of 6 primary interactions when dealing with a person. So either we nurture the person, okay, or we want to be nurtured by that person, loved and cared for by that person, or we want to have sex with that person, or we want to run away from that person or submit to them. Okay, that's the freeze response. Or we want to attack or fight them back, which is the fight response, or avoid the situation altogether, which is the flight response, okay? So these are the primary responses that we are gonna have when we meet a person and we are interacting with them. And so if we feel nurture first, or we want to be nurtured by them, so we either want to nurture them or be nurtured by them, and then we feel danger or we feel unsafe with them, then we're going to do running away, fighting, or avoiding altogether. So that's why it's very important to understand that in order to I just noticed that someone wrote, well, not someone, actually, should I say it? Okay, let's agree dogs are more level. I agree. I agree with anything you say. It's no problem. I can tell you that dogs and cats are not to be comparable because it is as simple as comparing apples to an orange. Each has their own experience and each has their own character. So I don't think you can compare sushi to a pizza, but both are yummy, yummy. But khalas, if you want dogs to be more lovable, ala rasi. Thank you for that. So these are the things I want to talk to you about. So we look for a partner in our unconscious mind that has the same basic traits as our parents, and that person will help us to repair the damage that was done to us by our parents, consciously or subconsciously, whether it was big or small, by trying to eliminate these intrusive behaviors or responses, okay? So all I'm trying to tell you guys, because we've hit an hour for now, and I'm going to stop at an hour, and we'll continue this conversation in another session next week in episode 7, because I think relationships is quite a big chunk. And I don't mind getting into more mature details. This is a mature show, but always respectful if in case someone who's under 18 is watching it. I just want to know from you. Thanks. I just want to know from you guys, has this been interesting for you? Is this interesting to you guys in general? Everything that I've shared, discussed, do you feel that this resonates with you? And I'm ready to answer any questions that you have right now. I'm sorry, I've been talking for an hour. Give me a chance to also to drink some water. Also, if there's someone that you know who can benefit from watching this, parent, friend, brother, or sister who's trying to who's going through a rocky marriage or relationship, who can benefit in having this understanding and really create an opportunity for these partners to have communication. Maybe they can watch us together and really think about what things I've said that impact them. Yes, Habibi, yes. Okay. Then in that situation, share it with them. Okay. Not for me. I don't care about the exposure. I'm just saying it for you guys. If it's going to create khair, then that's the whole objective of spending an hour and a bit talking about these things with you guys. Thank you, John. Confirmed it all for me. Thank you, John. Loads. Any questions? Thanks, Perla, for that. Thank you, Melissa. Really appreciate it. Thank you, May. Thank you, everybody. You've been really responsive. I'm loving this. Any questions from anybody before I wrap up for today? So I'm going to, Perla, maybe sometime in the future, the next session, actually next Friday, I think it's going to be the 5th. Hold on, let me just double check the date. I actually have an amazing guest next Friday with me, and we're going to be talking about something else, if I remember. I'm so confused these days. Yep, on the 5th, I actually have a guest. Well, not a guest. I mean, we're doing a co-session together. A good friend of mine. She's also a trainer and a coach. She's really, really superb. She's living out of Canada. I'm not going to tell you the name for now. I'll leave it a surprise for you guys. But yeah, we're going to talk. We're going to be getting into topics related to faith and how we can introduce faith into our life when it comes to our professional life. Okay. However, I want you to gather these points. Okay. How to deal with stubborn partners. We'll talk about that one, and we'll probably have a session after that. Maybe Perla, sometime you'd feel like coming in on the show, because with your expertise, I know you're really good at what you do. I think you'd be able to offer a lot of valuable information and kind of have a question answers. I can interview a bit and get out some answers to some people who want to understand therapy better, because there's such a big taboo on therapy. And I really don't understand why. If you had the ability to invest in something that's going to make you feel so much better, I mean, you invest so much money into your bodies, you invest so much money into your homes, into your clothes, into everything else. Why don't you invest money into your brain and into your personality? So please, guys, really, therapy is something that you should definitely do. And I think that someone should have a therapist for a lifetime, because we're always growing, we're always changing. It's just added support in today's world. So why not do that? I also recommend you have a coach, because coaches function differently than therapists. We focus on the future, and we work with you to build awareness and take you towards your objectives in an actionable manner, whereas therapists are amazing to help you really process all the behaviors or programs that got stuck or downloaded into your phone, into your applications in your brain that you don't need or you don't even know are there. You know, when you go into that junk file and you go find hidden junk, and then you find all these folders and files that are no longer used, and then you dump them or you process them or you learn from them. That's what therapy does in a super simplistic response. So go out there, guys, invest in who you are, invest in yourself. It's the best investment you'll ever make. And we're always here to serve you to the best of our abilities. All right, I think it's time for me to go and leave you in peace. So I see you next week at 6:30. All I can say is much love to you. Thank you so much for being with me during this entire session. God bless you. And if you have any further questions, just post them in the comment section. And please share this. If you feel this is valuable, the more you send it out to people, the more they benefit. I'm going to shut up. All right. Take care. Have a beautiful night.